Hey folks, Mr. Hildren here again. We are working on our TDA, text dependent analysis, on our Roman food article. So if you're not sure what we're up to right now, we are working on our essay map. We've already talked about, we've read the article together, we've annotated, we've asked questions, we've discussed it, we've made some comparisons and some contrasts, right? So we've looked at similarities, we look at differences in the way Romans eat and cook, their dining customs, in what they eat, right, their food, and then also in how they show their wealth. Okay. So we looked at that a little bit. If you are not sure and you were not here for that discussion, I did post a video earlier this week where I kind of review or recap the discussion we had. So you can watch that. I also have posted a video on how we take our prompt, which is right up here, and we turn it into our thesis, okay, or the main argument of our essay. How we basically make our thesis, and the entire rest of the essay is based on our thesis. So it's super helpful. I posted that video earlier today, so check that out. Now, in our thesis, we got to talk about the foods, dining customs, wealth of ancient Romans and Americans today. We're trying to figure out how they're the same and different. So we could say the foods, dining customs, and wealth of ancient Romans and Americans today are the same and different because, and we left three blanks. 3 blanks, as every good essay has at least 3 major points. Now, you might argue that ancient Romans and Americans, that their foods, dining customs, and wealth are the same, right? So you might have 3 similarities here. You might argue that they're different, or you might argue both. Right? And that's fine. A really simple way to do it. You can put specific things in your thesis, but probably the really simple way that's going to give you a lot of flexibility is to put things like the foods, dining customs, and wealth of ancient Romans and Americans today are the same and different because the Romans ate the same food. Now you could substitute and you could put different food, right? You could then for your next one say maybe the Romans, or we could say Americans have the same dining customs or different dining customs, right? Oops, customs. We could do that. And then we know we have to talk about wealth, right? So we could say, and Romans and Americans had, we could say the same, or we could say different, or both, the same and different. The same and different ways of showing their wealth. So, a lot of flexibility there. Okay, if we kind of keep it more general and broad, that's going to allow us to then go into specifics when we're actually writing our essay. Now, yours will look different, okay, based on how you feel. Whether you feel that they're all the same, whether you feel they're all different, or a mix of both. Okay, so you get to make it however you want. Now, I'm going to shrink this text a little bit so that I can see my next box a little easier. So then we move on to the meat of our essay, right? What we're actually going to talk about, our details, our facts, our ideas. Okay, we're going to explain everything. So the first box, that's our claim. Okay, that's the point we want to make. So that's where you're going to say, hey, the Roman foods are the same as Americans, or the Roman foods are different. Then you move on to your data, your facts and evidence from the article. Okay, well, what did you see in the article that makes you think that? And then your analysis from your brain, that's the reason why you chose the evidence, is where you explain everything. So, for example, if you want to say the Roman food is the same, okay, say the Romans and Americans ate similar things or similar foods. Now, if you think it's different, that's fine, but different foods. If you think it's both, but similar and different foods. Now, your data, right? This is where you get evidence from the text. So you might say the author states that Americans and Romans ate pork. Okay? Americans eat pork, Romans eat pork. Right? Now, you can also say the author states, put a comma there, put a quote, if you find a direct quote. Okay? That's a good way to do it. You could also, let's say it's not the author talking. Let's say that instead of the author, it's one of the archaeologists, one of the historians. You could say, historians believe. Instead of saying states, you could say believe. You could say, the archaeologist claims, right? You could say it any way you want. Okay, so we could say historians believe that Americans and Romans both ate pork, right? Let me shrink that for us. So it fits in there perfect. So that's our data, right? That's our facts. Now we've got to move on to analysis. So we got to explain everything, right? So we could say Americans eat pork-based dishes like sausage and pork chops. And then we could explain even further. We could say experts found evidence that urban or city Romans raised pigs in their neighborhoods. And we could even be more detailed. We could say experts found evidence that urban Romans raised pigs in the neighborhoods according to paragraph, right, 8, or whatever paragraph you find it in. Now let me shrink that too so it fits in the box. But see, you're explaining everything to the reader so that they'll understand, because they might not have read the article. Now we also know we need to have a box where we talk about dining customs. So how we eat, how we cook. So you're going to say, hey, they're the same or they're different. Then you need to come up with some facts. Find some things in the article about the way Romans cook. Compare it to how Americans cook, or maybe how they eat. Written or unwritten rules. And then explain that evidence, right? Explain it in detail in case the reader, or in case your reader of your essay has not read our article. And then finally, we know we need to talk about wealth, right? How Americans show off their money, how Romans show off their money. We can find some evidence from the article. We can explain then that evidence so it makes sense to the reader. And we could also then explain how Americans show off their wealth, how it's the same or how it's different. And then that brings us to the conclusion. Now this is where you're going to remind the readers all your claims again. How I like to do that is I like to go through and put my claims again. Okay, so claim number 1, claim number 2, claim number 3. Phrase it a little differently. And then I like to just take my thesis and put it at the very end again. That way I summarize everything I talked about. I remind them my big argument, my thesis. That's 4 quality, solid sentences to kind of wrap up our entire essay. In my next video, I'm going to show you guys some tips on successful essay writing on Google Docs. Okay, so stay tuned for that one. If you have questions on this, just let me know.